So we're going to continue our technique journey by taking a look at another popular tapping technique utilised by Eddie Van Halen, which is using 4-note per string. Now, when I say 4-note per string, in the other tapping examples that we've been looking at, we were fretting 2 notes with our fretting hand and tapping the 3rd note with our picking hand, giving us 3 notes per string. Whereas this time we're going to be utilising 3-note per string figures with our fretting hand whilst continuing to tap a single note, giving us 4 notes per string. Now, for examples of this, check out the solo to Jump as well as the solo to Hot for Teacher, where you can hear these incredibly fast flurries where Eddie is utilising this technique. So we're going to keep this within our A minor pentatonic framework, and we're going to use our minor pentatonic, or should I say our minor blues shape, but we're just going to add the note on the 7th fret of each string. So once again, we're using that technique where Eddie fills in the gap. So here's the top part of our A blues scale. And then if we add the additional note in with our 2nd finger. Okay, so you should be pretty familiar with that pattern by now. We've been using that quite a lot. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to tap at the 12th fret as we did before. Now, when we were discussing tapping, as I said, Eddie taps with his 1st finger. A lot of people tap with their 1st finger. I choose to tap with my 2nd finger, which I guess is a little bit more of a kind of Steve Vai slant on tapping, because it enables me to either keep the pick held between my 1st finger and my thumb, or sometimes I fold my 1st finger over to hold the pick and then have my thumb on the top of the neck. It's entirely up to you which technique you use. This is the one that I favour. If I tried to do it with my 1st finger, I can do it, but it just feels a little bit alien to me. Now, in terms of the tapping technique, let's just go back over what we're doing with tapping. It's literally like a hammer-on, where when you do a hammer-on with your fretting hand, you pick a note and hammer your finger down. You're doing exactly the same thing with your tapping finger. You're hammering it down and then you're pulling away. Now, some people tap up, or pull up, should I say, go up that way by pulling the finger towards the palm. I tend to go down when I'm tapping, so I'm sort of pulling away from the string. So just with our kind of original pattern, if you like, you tap on the 12, pull that finger away to sound the 8, and then pull that the 3rd finger away from the 8th to sound the 5th fret. So that gives us the kind of technique that we're going to be using. But what we're now going to do is introduce that 2nd finger. So the rhythm's going to change. Instead of groups of 3, you're going to be playing groups of 4. So you'll tap on the 12th, pull off to the 8th, then pull your 3rd finger off to the 2nd finger. So that's 8 to 7, and then pull your 2nd finger off from 7 to 5. So you get this. Okay, then we're going to do the same pattern on the B string. Now, take care there when you're pulling off, especially using 3 notes, that you don't sound the top E string. So I'm using my 1st finger to mute out the top E. So one more time. Then on to the G string, playing exactly the same pattern, tapping at the 12th, pulling off to the 8th, pulling off to the 7th, and then pulling off to the 5th. Okay, then what we can do is go back to the B string. So one more time, let's take a look at the first exercise. We're going to descend and then ascend, playing each string 4 times. And of course, you can loop that pattern over and over and use it as a way of building up more speed. You know, I actually find it a little bit easier to play faster because when you play it slow, there's greater distance between the notes, so you stand more chance of going out of time. So even playing it slowly, I guess, is a really good exercise for making sure that all of the fingers are working in time. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to practice this repeating twice on each string. We're going to descend as far as the G string and then ascend from the G string up to the top E. So let's have a look at that nice and slowly. Okay, and finally, we're just going to play each string once. This is quite challenging, but, you know, we need to do this. We're not always going to be playing licks and phrases where you're repeating on each string. So once, we're going to go. Okay, bring the speed up a little bit. Obviously, don't feel pressured in having to play these exercises quick. Just keep it nice and slow and gradually build up the speed in your own time. Okay, so make sure that you pay attention to muting with your picking hand so that you don't sound the low open strings. Keep your fretting hand nice and relaxed, and also utilize the first finger of your fretting hand to keep the top strings quiet as you start to descend through the strings. Obviously, when you're pulling off, you don't want to be pulling off and catching either the B string or the top E. Okay, so now it's your turn to play through our 4-note per string tapping exercise.